So okay means full credit? Okay means I don't have to do it again?
Is it all in?
Sweet.
Okay means you're fine. Full credit.
The ... is makes me curious. ...
means you got close to.
Close enough.
So you should review your mistakes.
It's like hand grenades.
All right. After all that set up, I forgot what the hell you wanted me to look at. What do you want to look at, sorry?
2G on the practice test.
2G or not 2G?
Sweet.
That is the question.
Is the test going to be very similar to the practice?
It will be. Very similar.
Similar?
What happened exactly?
Yeah, similar.
Exactly how similar?
I'm not going to copy this and just change the numbers.
Will it be an inverse function of this?
All the concepts on the practice test and in your homework can show up on the test. Now, that's not very, it's a very teacher answer, I know.
Thanks
I
for
love
that. Appreciate it.
But too bad. That's what you got. The test I give you just so you can see the format and the types of questions I like to ask normally. So, I mean, I don't really ask definition questions in here for the most part. I do normally give you like little pieces of graph to do something on. If you've got your own graph paper you want to do stuff on, I love it. So these are the kind of questions I like to ask, but I can't narrow it down too much. 2G. And the instructions just say simplify. So there's got to be something about the form this is in. Because we really can't directly do this division. It's an indirect division when it's got radicals involved. Rationalize it, exactly. So in this case, how do you rationalize this? Multiply by the conjugate. Good, right? And this is not like conjugating your verbs in French, but conjugate just means the other missing part of the difference of squares pair. So it's just basically take that, make it a plus. And the reason we do that is because it is like a difference of squares now. The radical could only still live in the middle term, and the middle term is going to die. Therefore, that bottom is going to become rational. It's going to become non-radical. How's that? Is that cool? And now you just got to do this. You got to FOIL out the bottom. You really don't have to FOIL because the middle term is going to cancel. So what's 2 root 7 times 2 root 7? 4 times 7, so 28. Negative 1 times 1. Sweet. Now you don't have to worry about the oi in FOIL because the O and the I cancel, right? We set it up so that they cancel. So those are gone. And on the top, you just got to distribute that bad boy there. And then you're done. Is that all right? No? So you get, what do you hear? Yeah, 2 root 21 plus root 3. And there's really not much you can do. Except write your 3 better than me, but that's all right. Is that cool? All right.
2C.
I got 0.
Okay. So I try to make it very apparent what absolute value signs are. This is not negative 17. It's pretty clear that's a absolute value sign. So what do you have to do first? The absolute value signs fall in the same place as parentheses, and please excuse my dumbass son, or Jaron and Sally, whichever one sticks in your head better. So you get, so you can do all this at once. 7 minus 8, which is negative 1, which absolute value, that is
1.
1, and then you have a negative 1. Right, it's a long way to go for that. Plus, yeah,
Negative 1.
12 over 3 times negative 4 is 12 over negative 12, and negative 1 absolute value of that is 1.
That's what I got. Sweet.
Is that cool? Let me ask you this question. How many guys, I know a few of you had the answer already, how many guys have not really worked on this practice test at all yet? So the rest of you have worked on it somewhat? All right, I will trust you. Let me go ahead and give you guys the answer key real quick. That might help out with a little bit of this.
Yay!
Oh.
Oh, something I got right.
Plus minus is 2 points.
Oh,
See, look at that.
so it's false.
Plus minus.
Oh. My eraser keeps moving, Billy. Why?
Because you have to do it straight up. Or put it really big out.
Can't argue with math. Ooh, I got that one right.
Yeah, put an extra one here. Let's see. Good. Right there.
But I got 1 over negative x minus 3. So I have a question.
That's enough for that.
On number F, is the only answer you'll accept negative 1 over x plus 3?
No, you can have 1 over negative x minus 3.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. I'll let you guys peruse that for a little while.
That's what I had.
This answer came in last semester, and I couldn't remember if I had made any mistakes or not, so we'll see.
Oh. This is wrong.
Probably did. Let's see.
This is very, very wrong. Number 3 is an F minus. Oh. Can you do number 3?
Two-thirds, negative 3/2.
I understand
Okay. Yeah, sure.
part of it, but I guess I didn't get the whole thing.
So I have a request about number 3. Now, let me warn you about something. If you're going to use this as a study guide, do the practice test and then check it against this. Do not do this. Yeah? Yeah. And it's not going to do anything for you. Agreeing with the work that's already done will get you nowhere. Sorry. So it's not going to be, the test will not be, here it is done. Do you agree or not? I agree. I concur. All right. Doctor, do you concur? So number 3 is an equation of the line problem. There's a little shorthand for equation. The less of my writing you can see, the better. So it's got to go through -1, -3. And it's got to be perpendicular this line. So whenever you see a question that says, find the equation of the line that, you need 2 things from the information they give you. You need the slope,
Slope.
and you need a
Point.
point. I love it. So whatever the hell I tell you or they tell you, then that's the two things you're looking for. So here's my point. Sweet.
Yeah.
Check. How do I get my slope?
Well, you have to find y equals mx plus
Y
b.
minus Y2 minus Y1.
I appreciate that. I would do that if I had 2 points. I only have 1 point.
First, we find the S before the line.
Now here's the other way to look at it. I told you this and I haven't used it yet, so probably for this. If it's perpendicular, the slope is completely opposite.
It's the
So it's the opposite sign. and
Negative
reciprocal.
reciprocal.
Huh?
It's the negative reciprocal.
Turn around. Completely opposite, yeah. So you were completely. That's right. Correct. So, but how do I find this guy's slope? So that's how you break this down. You say, whatever the hell I'm told, I've got to find a point. Well, this is nice. The point's just given to you. I could give you a problem that says it goes through the x-intercept of blah, and then you got to find the x-intercept of that, and that's your point you use. So, and then once you get that, you got to say, how do I get the slope from what I'm told? So, beautiful. Solve this for y. I can see the slope. So if I solve this for y, I get. This doesn't really matter, because all I really need from this is the 2/3. So what's my slope now?
Negative 3 halves.
Negative
3 halves.
3 halves.
So it's the negative.
Because perpendicular means that they meet how?
Like,
I like that.
90-degree angle.
At a 90-degree angle. That's like a cuss word in
Foul.
sign language, I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to. So, slope is negative 3 halves. The point is this, and then I call it, when I teach this to my math 110 or whatever, I call it the SDT level now, the same damn thing. No matter where those two things came from, I plug them into the formula. You could either use mx plus b, or you could use that guy. Well, some of you guys might not think I could use this, because do I have the y-intercept? No. But I do have x and y at a specific place, and I do have m, so I could solve for b. Not a big deal. Or I can just plug it in this and go to town, because this has a place for everything I know. Is that cool? Is that lukewarm? Is that, how's that? Reactions? I don't know. All right. So y minus what goes here? Yeah, negative 3. So you just make it plus. Slope is negative 3 halves. X minus negative 1. So I can just make that plus. And I just clean that up a little bit.
So you could have solved that equation of y further.
Which one?
The y equals to 2 over 3 x plus y over 2.
5 over 3, sorry.
5 over 3.
Could I solve it further?
Where did I go wrong?
Like, when do we know, like, when to stop? Like,
The only thing I need from this is the slope.
Negative.
So the minute I get the slope, I didn't even have to write that down. I don't care about that. The
Negative.
slope is 2/3. That's all I need.
Plus
the equation of what formula did you put in to find y?
plus 5.
So just
Dumbass.
like separate
Solve
the
for y.
Just separate the y.
Just solve for y.
Solve for y.
Add the 5, divide by 3. Just solve for y. Get y by itself. See it? Cool, man. Is everybody go with this? Or indifferent? Is that? We are indifferent.
That's a good word.
I'm passionately indifferent about all of this. Number 4. I like this part. What's the general form of a circle? We know the general form of a line is this. And it's good to know that because, and this is not even the general form, it's the most useful form. Let me say it like that. Because I can see the slope and I can see the y-intercept, right? There's a point the wrong things. What's the most useful form of a circle?
X minus H
minus H squared,
plus
Y minus K squared
equals
R squared.
I like it. Almost this there. And then what two things got to pull out of here? Just looking at it like this.
HK.
The HK would be
And K is the center.
the center, and R would be the radius.
Radius, yeah.
And you can see HK would be the center if you think about it like translations. The center normally is 0, 0. These would be translations. You can follow the translations to see where the circle's center would end up. How are we doing there? Again, I don't want to play poker with any of you guys.
So with the
No glasses needed. All right, so I've got to somehow get this to look like that. Which variable is spread out too much? It needs to be collected. Y. The X is cool. The X is all good. It's the Y that's spread out a bit. Let me add this 3 out of the way. How do I collect this together into this form? What procedure must I use?
Finish
Completing
the
the square. How many of you guys have heard of completing the square? Okay, I see a few hands not going up. Okay. So, this is maybe not the prettiest one to start off with as far as explaining completing the square. You know completing the square, you know what I'm talking about. Here's a quick explanation about completing the square. What do you get when you do that? Okay. You know, what do you get when you do this?
Square minus 14 plus.
Or not? Okay, good. And I could just keep going all day, but what's half of 8? Which of course is this, which only makes sense because the middle term comes from adding this to itself because it shows up twice. And what's 4 squared?
15.
16, which makes sense because that's exactly how I got 16, is multiplying that L from FOIL, right? And again, the same thing here, half of negative 14 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 49. So now if I had something like this, what, Jeff? I don't know. That. I say, what can I put here so I can factor it like that?
9.
Half of 6 is
3.
3. That must be what's in here. Half of 6 is 3. That must be what goes there. That's the only way I can get 6x there, right? Same way that half of negative 14 was negative 7. Half of 8 is 4. And then if I square 3, I get
9.
So that must be what goes here. So that's completing the square. That's figuring out what has to go here so that it's factorable like that as a square. So I do the same things here. I've got to figure out what goes here to complete this guy's square. The 2 steps are always half of the middle dude, square it. The awesome thing about it is when you half the middle dude, that's what goes inside here. You've already got that part. You don't have to factor anything. So what is half of the middle dude?
5 halves.
5 halves. That was good. What do you get when you square that bad boy?
25 fourths.
So let's break this down. That must be what goes in here. Is that cool? Same way we just did over there. So if I take half of 5, 5 halves, that must be what goes in here. And then when I square it, I get 25 fourths. That must be what I have to put here, right? So if I put it here, I better at the same time
Put it on the other side.
put it there. So then I get x squared is cool. All this mess now is this equals
So it's
good,
0,
61 over 4.
negative 5 halves. 61 fourths.
Sweet. And now what's your center? 0.
0 and negative 5 halves.
Negative 5 halves, good. Center 0, negative 5 halves. And the radius,
This is the square root of 61 over 4.
like the square root of 61. Square root of 4 is 2, so you just put it over 2.
Can we simplify that?
61, I don't think we can break it down.
But could we make it a real number, like with a calculator, or do you want to see it?
No, leave it like that, yeah. Thank God that's what I got. Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe, I think that, I don't know, I heard like if there is this formula, I mean, this might be related to a formula like a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. A plus b whole squared. Is that the same formula?
Yeah, it's the same idea. Yeah. Yeah.
So you want us to keep it in
Radical.
the radicals and the
Yeah.
fractions and not put it in decimals, right?
If you do, it's okay, but show me this step.
Okay, just because I turned mine when I did completing the square, I didn't even put 25 over 4, I put 15.
Oh.
I put 2.5 and 15.
Yeah, and the work, I mean, here's the equation. Now, the minute I make it into a decimal and somebody's trying to put this equation back together, they might not realize it came from something easily
Okay.
put together as a fraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're trying to maintain your fractions, but you can't. So I got a question on, what was it, 6B? Is that right, 6B? What does that mean, the zero of a function? What does that mean?
X.
Basically put 0 in for the x.
X zeros and 4.
That would be if I ask you what's f of 0. The 0 of a function is the x value that makes the function 0. Cool. So the function I give you in number 6 for f. So now you just got to make that equal to 0 and solve for x. So don't do this. This is not the same question. Don't just plug a 0 in. So the 0 of f must be the thing whose output is 0. We'll take this and make it equal to 0 and solve it. And that one's really nice. Should be. Yeah.
On 8B, you have the answer is blah 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 plus 22, and then you go.
That's the one. I knew there was one that was.
I got blah 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 plus 23. I don't know.
That might be right.
Okay.
Let's look at 8B. I thought there was one I got a number a little bit off. Eight B. By the way, real quick, the average on the quiz was about a 64. And this is stuff that you need to have down decently well to be able to continue on with the pre-calculus, because we're going to build on top of that. So what I'm trying to say is you should probably come to see me or see a tutor or something very soon if you got a low grade on that quiz. It might have just been you forgot there was a quiz, or it might have just been you haven't been able to get the book and you haven't really started the homework yet. Because I did a quick analysis of my stats class this morning. I didn't look at this class the same way, but everybody who had turned in homework, their average was an 80 on their quiz, and everybody who didn't turn in the homework, their average was a 70 on their quiz. So it's not exactly, if you're taking statistics, it's not really proof of anything, but it's interesting that it does seem to be a correlation between turning the homework in and getting a better grade. So this kind of problem gave a lot of people trouble on that quiz. What do I need to do here?
Least common denominator.
Yeah, I need to see what everybody's made of. I see that's made of x minus 1, x minus 4. This is made up of, incredibly enough, this and this. Since it's an equation, I'm allowed to
On either side.
multiply both sides by anything I want to except 0. So I can multiply by something that's going to kill all my fractions. Thank God. The problem is, the minute I show students that, they want to kill fractions everywhere, and I understand. But you can only do it when it's legal. You can only, if there's an equation, I can multiply both sides. If that wasn't there, you cannot kill your fraction. You can't. What are you going to do? There's no other side to balance you back out. All right, so what am I going to multiply both sides by?
X minus 1, x plus 4, or x minus 4.
Yeah. So it ends up distributing to both of these, and right here. And basically what happens is, I don't really like writing all that crap down. Whatever it's already got, it's going to pick up the other one.
Yeah.
It's already got an x minus 1, so it's going to pick up an x minus 4. It's already got an x minus 4, so it's going to pick up an x minus 1. And this has already got both of them, so I'm going to pick up anything. Now that is much nicer.
Oh.
Now let's double check the numbers, and I think this might be the one. I can't remember.
I think this is the one.
So here, the big mistake people made somewhere was they forgot to bring that negative through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks right. There's a
Oh,
3
20.
there.
That's what I thought. Like I'm off by
22.
one on an addition.
So you get
Pretty
2x
confident.
squared
I got a 23.
minus 7x plus 23 equals 0. I'm pulling everything that way.
It's
To
22.
keep my x squared positive. So I added 2x squared, I added 20, and I subtracted 7x. Is that cool? So on my answer key, I, for some reason, just said, I don't like those numbers, so I want 22
It's
there.
23, right?
It should be 23 there, yes.
22. Okay. Thank you.
That's why I will never say, so some teachers that are just so arrogant that they're like, I'll never make a mistake, don't ever ask me. I'm like, I will certainly make mistakes.
So it's the square root of 319.
And that's one of them right there. So now, you first try to factor this. And you'll see pretty quickly this is not going to go anywhere. So then you just have to attack it with a quadratic formula. Yeah.
Is it negative 7x or positive 7x?
So I added everything. I added the 2x squared. I subtracted the 7x. And I just did that so that my x squared would come out positive. So it is minus 7x. It's positive 7x here, and then you subtract it to the other side. Cool. Is that cool? And now you just got a quadratic formula it, just to create a new verb.
Instead of doing the fraction, taking that term into that these factor. Instead of doing the fraction,
Because the answer is 23, not 22.
Oh, the answer is
towards left, and then take an LCM.
That's pretty much what I did. Or are you just saying putting together?
Well, yeah.
You could put these together and then cross multiply.
No.
That's another way, but I would do that.
No,
Yeah,
I
so
would
you could
say-
subtract this over.
No, bringing the term
So
on the
why
right
you can get rid of
towards
the
left and
bottom
taking an
is because
LCM.
we're trying to get rid of the whole thing and then just cross multiply.
Yeah,
Rather than
you
touch
should
the
end up
other
here
one.
eventually.
That's why.
Yeah,
And that's what we're
as long as you end up here eventually, you're
X1,
okay.
X4, you can cross, you
Yeah.
can-
Yeah,
Me?
Yeah, yes, sir.
When you factor something out and you get like x is 0 and x is negative 4, why is it that x is 0 is not, I mean like, so you have an x times x minus 4. Why is it that x isn't 0? Because in high school I was taught that x is 0 is an answer because
yeah, sure, definitely.
but on my quiz you cancel it out like here.
Oh yeah, this is a radical equation. You could get what's called extraneous roots. You could, because when you square both sides of an equation, you lose the fact if it was a negative or a positive, which opens the door for more answers. When you plug that into the original equation, it doesn't work.
Got it, so that's why that was
Good.
wrong.
So that's not why it was wrong. You're right for that, but you have to check
Plug
it.
it in. Got it.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah. I just added this way, just to make my x squared term positive. That's all. I didn't subtract the 3. I added and subtracted that way. Yeah, that's all I did. Or that. Sure.
Do you understand?
As long as they end up here. Yes.
3
Yeah.
over 2y, 1 over x, and then I can just cancel that.
12D.
So you
Yeah, this one's
put all
gross.
your- So you end up with
Yeah.
So I got a request for 12D.
That's a hard one. That one's crazy. I think I did it right.
Man, I am evil.
You or evil?
Now, the biggest mistake people make is they see that something comes out of here. But there's not one of them, there's two of them. So what can come out of here? A 3 and an A, but there's two of these.
And a squared.
Yeah. And you're left with all right, how are we doing so far? If there was 1, then I would have gotten 1. There's 2, so I got 2. Is that step cool right there? Yes. No, you could. Yes, you could. I would not.
It's 3a times
If the
x.
instructions say factor, you will almost never multiply first, because that's the exact opposite of factoring. I say almost never just to cover my ass, because it would be a very weird situation where you do have to multiply something first. But real quick, I mean, if I have, isn't that what this is? So out of each of these, I can take a 3a.
That's not how I did it. I did it
So you do end up with 3a times 3a squared. Cool. So that's step 1. It's just to kind of see that that's what's going on there. Now, what comes out of all this mess? That's trying to be a 5. What number comes out? What number comes out?
Oh, I got that.
3. How many a's come out?
2.
2. How many x minus 1's come out? 2. And I just write what's left in each term, right?
3.
Yeah, so I can take 3 out of both of these, 2 a's out of these, and 2 x minus 1's out of those. So now I just write what's left when I take all that stuff out.
So 3 plus.
Yeah, so 3 is going to be left here. I took everything else away from this poor dude. Plus
4.
4.
A.
Cubed x minus 1.
Yeah.
If you stop there, it's okay, but you really should. Go ahead and just distribute that real quick. Cool. So there's one sort of like that on the quiz, and I should have left it alone if you got to this step correctly. You should do that one last little cleanup step. Is that all right? I love the way most of you guys are like this. Just got to make a question somewhere. Yeah.
I know in this situation you don't have to multiply that out, but the thing that gets me is that when I see the parentheses and the squared on the outside, I just, like up on the top at the very beginning, I see that, I think distribute the square instead of 2 different equations.
Or foil it better, yeah. I understand what you mean. But you've got to catch your brain, because it's more used to doing that than it is to factoring, because factoring is relatively newer compared to foiling and stuff. But when I say factor, you probably don't want to do that. You want to do the exact opposite of that. You don't want to multiply anything out. You want to unmultiply everything. Right? So you just got to catch yourself from doing it. If you foil all this mess out, oh my God. It's going to end up in a form that I have no idea how to attack it. And that's where some of you guys sort of were headed on the quiz. It was so much work. I'm like, no. Don't multiply that stuff out when I say factor. It's more than likely wrong if you're multiplying on the first step of a factor problem. Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
What did you take away from 1 minus 25?
Because that was before I just did this here. I meant to
How do you
erase
do it?
that. You foil it.
Mine's cubed.
This is my quiz.
Sum of the base and the height of a triangle is
3 times.
46. The area is 46. Oh,
Those are all
sorry.
next to each other.
120. And what's the formula for the area of a triangle?
Like this.
But it's like
I
this.
think we need to height, base of the line.
Okay.
Foil it and then foil it again.
Okay. So
Foil it once and then add another 2 more.
I've got 2 unknowns, but 2 equations, so I should be able to do this. As long as they really are 2 separate pieces of information. And they certainly look like it. Somebody have a suggestion?
So if we get B from the second equation, we can plug it in.
Yeah, so you can either solve for B here, or you can solve, or H, or you can solve for B or H there. It doesn't matter. Take one, solve it for one letter, plug it into the other one. Use one piece of information inside the other piece of information. Cool. That's it.
Since we don't have a value of B, what are we going to put in?
I do know what B is. I know B is 46 minus H. Which is a perfectly valid value. In the real world, it doesn't really mean shit to me. But in math, it's fine. It's, all right, what's B? Well, it's 46 minus H. Cool. So then on the second problem, when I see 120 equals 1/2 B, in place of B, I can put 46 minus H. And now I've only got one variable in there. I should be able to solve that. Is that cool? Should be able to solve that. So now we get, if I double, first off, 240, bring the H in, 46H minus H squared. Is that cool? Multiply the 2 up first, get it out of the way. Bring the stuff over here, H squared. And I would, especially when you get numbers like this, I would just try to take just a few seconds and see if it looks like it might factor before you just jump right into the quadratic formula. So I would, if I was going to do this problem, what adds to be negative 46, like negative 10 and negative 36. But those multiply to be 360, that's too much. So maybe I try negative 12 and negative 34. That still makes 46.
It's 40 and 6.
So it's 8.
40 and 6. 40 and 6.
Yeah, negative 40, so negative 6 and 40. Multiply to be 240. Because 12 times 34 would be, I don't know, 408, something like that? Somebody help me out. I want to finish this out. Is it 408?
Yeah.
Thanks, please. Do you see how I started off 360 was too much? Are you guys kind of with me? I started off with two numbers that make this work. Oh, but that didn't make that work. So let me try this. Oh, I went the wrong freaking way. All right, let me go the other way. I mean, that's how you do that. It's like a Price is Right game. Higher, higher, lower, lower, right? Where Bob Barker is this. Or I guess it's Drew Carey. That's right. What the hell, youngins and your Drew Carey. It's the ones on Who's Line, man. Bring that shit back. Should gain some weight back there. All right. Is that cool? Because now this will factor like x, h minus 6, h minus 40.
Super sweet.
Get a couple of answers.
I see this one. I see this one.
Now be real careful. You can't say your answers are 40 and 6. H is 40, H is 6. In each of these cases, you got to figure out what B is. That's one situation, there's another situation. You got to be careful. H cannot have two simultaneous values. Your triangle's like, what the hell? I don't know what it's doing. Yeah. You got a question? Yeah.
Number 10, please. Number 10.
Okay. Somebody help me out. What's the last transformation you would apply?
Minus 2.
Yeah, the same thing as order operation. So let's put that third, and that would be what? What would that do?
Down 2.
Take it down to. What are the other two transformations?
Upwards.
Yeah, so this would go right 4. And this would,
Increase or
careful about upwards. It wouldn't pick it up. It would stretch it up. Yeah, so stretch up by factor 2. Okay. So you got to move it right 4, then stretch it, and then finally take it down 2. So hopefully I captured all that. I eventually did. Good Lord. All right. So if I were to do it in this order that we've written now, the base graph looks like this. So when I ask you to do transformations, you always have to plot that base graph. Plot what it looks like without any transforms.
Will we get points taken off if we don't do it? Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes.
Just like this?
That. Huh?
Just like this?
Yes. So show me. You got to show me what you're. Show me what you're working with. You got to show me what you're actually moving. So you need to actually put them somewhere before you can move them around. Then you go right 4. So this one goes. We got 2 colors today, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4. This goes 1, 2, 3, 4. This one goes 1, 2. Okay, so there it is so far. Then I'm going to stretch it up by a factor of 2. So 0 times 2 is 0. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So here it is so far there.
so if it was stretched it up by a factor of 1/2, would it be still stretching it up? Or if that was 1/2 instead of 2?
Then it would be squishing it. All the outputs
But
would
we're
be half as
just
big.
multiplying the point
Yeah,
by
that
1/2.
there says take those outputs, what they normally are, and double them.
Oh.
Yep. So if there's a 1/2 in front, it would cut them in half. And then the last step, just take them down 2. So this goes down 2. This goes down 2.
Yeah.
2 somewhere. Beautiful.
Questions like this for the test, if we, I guess I should say, do you need us to write down steps? Are we going to lose points?
In fact, normally I will do that. Just it'll help me grade it.
Okay.
Because with some graphs, if you miscount or something, I can't tell what you thought the shift was sometimes. So if I make you spell it out and then you make a mistake, you lose less points because I can see that you knew what the shifts were.
Sure.
So even if I forget to ask, you should write down what the shifts are. Just so you're telling me, I know what the hell the shifts are. You know. Yeah.
When you're stretching it up, you're just multiplying the y by 2.
The outputs get multiplied by a factor of 2, yeah.
I had a question from the web assigned homework. There were a few problems where you had a multiple choice where you would select some of the options were switching on the y-axis and flipping around the x-axis. What are those transformations?
Oh yeah, those are those reflections. Yeah, those are when you have a negative on the inside or a negative on the outside.
Yeah, I kept missing that.
So the trick is, well, here's one way you might remember. If I've got this, okay, there it is. If I do this, does that really do anything? Because what it actually does, it does something. It actually flips it over the y-axis, but it wouldn't land right back on top of itself. That's why the function says, well, fundamentally, you haven't done a damn thing to me. So, nah. But what would this do if I just put a negative on the outside? Now the parabola is upside down. Now it's reflected across the x-axis. So if it's outside here, it's across the x. If it's inside, it's across the y.
I think one of the ones that I was confused on was involving a square root, because, I mean, how do you get negatives like values?
So again, this guy here needs this to be true. This guy here needs that to be true. So that would reflect this way. Normally a square root can't exist here because I can't take the square root of a negative number on this real plot. But the minute I put a negative in there, it's going to change all the signs. So now I'm allowed, in fact, more than just allowed to, I have to plug in negative values now in order for the square root to not freak out. The first thing I do is change the sign, yeah. That's another way to remember that, and that'll flip it over the y-axis. The same way that was inside, it flipped over the y-axis, which doesn't really change it. That's inside, it flips over the y-axis, which in this case definitely changes it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes.
Is that the only shape in reflection, the parabola? Is that the only
Can I
shape we can
simplify
make?
inside the bracket?
No,
before I do the outside part?
As long as it is a function, all of these transformations remain the same. That is one awesome thing about this. There are functions we definitely have not learned yet. In fact, I'll bet you $1 million that you take the number of functions you know and take it to the fourth power, and then take that to the fourth power, and then take that to the fourth power, and there are more functions than that. So, I mean, that's just the way it is. But any function, if it's a function, if it's a true function, whatever the hell it is, if I put a negative x in it, it will now reflect across the y-axis. Whatever the hell it is, it will just reflect across the y-axis. It can't do anything about it. Cool. Try as hard as you can. And in fact, it truly actually goes beyond functions, because is a circle a function?
No.
No, but I still can talk about transformations of a circle. I can move a circle center around the same way. So it applies to actually more than just functions, to be honest.
It doesn't really fit.
So if you have like let's take just a basic circle. Right. So if you put negatives in there, obviously, it's not going to do anything, right? It gets more interesting if you have one that's off the origin, which I think is what you're asking about.
Yeah.
So it would really, if you put a negative in, like that, what really happens here? So here's like, now forgive me. I'm going to call this F star. Are you guys semi-cool with that? Maybe if you're not, it doesn't matter. This is all off topic a little bit. But, I mean, what actually happens here? Doesn't that negative, so that becomes x plus 1, is that cool?
Yeah.
And this would become y minus 2?
Yeah.
So see what actually happened? The center was 1, negative 2, now it's negative 1, 2. Intriguing. So, I mean, when you have a question like that, this is where you got to start. I mean, it's a really good question. What would happen to a circle? What would actually happen with these reflections? Where would it go? Do it. Plug in a negative value into a circle equation and see what happens. I mean, this is where you got to start playing around. You have a question, you're like, I'm not sure, let me try it. If you get some weird shit, then you come ask me and say, what the hell did I just do? But I mean, this is the beauty of math. This is what people don't understand. You can play with mathematics. Probably not the first choice for kids. Run on the playground and do my chocolate milk. But you can play with mathematics. You can do it. Yeah.
Can you just really quickly do number 12A? And that comes along with my question of x equals 0 if that's a real question. Or if that's real answer.
I'm sorry, do it again. 12A?
If I just ask you. 12A, so I factor out an x, and the end I did x is 0. Is that a real answer for that? Or do you just...
If it were an
x is
equation,
0?
yes, it would be.
Okay.
But there's no equation, so there's no answer. It's just a...
Just because I got told in my 110 that x is equal to 0 is not an answer.
Really?
Yeah. And so
Sorry.
that screwed me.
That was my fourth
It
puberty.
got me all messed up because in high school I learned that it was, and then just my 110.
Totally.
Who told me it wasn't? What?
You must
But is it because it's an x to
you
the
must
third
privately
power
tell me
means
who
it's-
this is so I can... Don't say
Well,
it.
he was a really good
All right.
110.
So he just needs a little right there. That's big. Something like that. It might have just been that day. He might have just said something
Maybe.
wong or misunderstood.
Maybe I just misunderstood what I was
Yeah.
saying. But
It's
isn't it
possible.
because x to the third power means there's going to be 3 solutions, correct?
Yeah,
So
but
on
some of
that
them could be
one-
complex.
Yes.
So if you do all the possible solutions, you got to match the power. Yeah. Okay.
But on this practice, are we going to turn this practice test in on Wednesday, yes?
You don't.
Oh, you don't?
Yeah. I gave you the answer key, so I don't need those.
No more questions.
If I get it 100% right, that doesn't count for anything?
I know, it's amazing. Wow, this is good. And so why did you put a 22 there? What's that shit?
Yeah, it looks surprisingly similar.
Okay, so if you're not sure how to use your time, if you have not tried all the practice test problems out, you should do that. If you're stuck on some homework problems, now's a really good time to do them and call me over to your desk if nobody else has a question.
Testing 2D.
How come I can do these now, but I couldn't do them during the quiz?
Practice test.
2D?
Yeah.
Trying to save it one time.
You're gonna have a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The way I look at it is 1 over. Yeah. So you take whatever's in the parentheses.
Once you get our sandwiches from. We did our cheese sandwiches I made twice. They're bomb.
Does that make it two labels that start like crossable cross cancel?
Now I go 0. Do I go 0?
Yeah.
Oh, let me see. Let's put it there, I'll forget it.
Here's more.
It's just chapter 1. I'm not going to turn it in tomorrow. We still have time, right? But
You have until Wednesday.
Yeah, I'm still have just like done everything, but just the confirmation.
That's okay. You got time. All right, guys. There's two main ways to do this. You could bring the -2 in now, and on that problem on the quiz, number 1C, some of you guys did that, but then these guys somehow escaped. They're in there. They have to have that apply to them. That's why personally I simplify the inside first, and then I bring that -2 idea in. So 3 over 12. Right. Let me explain along with you. What do those 5 A's do? So now how many A's do I have?
3.
I have 5 A's coming up. I already had 2, so now I got 7. Is that cool? Or you could do 2 minus -5 is 2 plus 5 is 7. If you want to be that way. Those 3 B's go, and now I have 4. I mean, that's the smart way to do that. Much quicker. What is that? What 2 things does this tell you to do? Flip it. And square it. That's. And of course, what do you do with that power on this here? I saw way too many like 6s here. What do you do when you raise the power to power like that? You multiply. So you get 16 e to the 8. 8 to the 14. So I totally understand when students say to me, but Jeff, man, 2 times 4 is 8. Why don't I 2 and 4 is 8? So why is that not 8? Or why is that not 16? Well, that is not a 4. That is not a 4. I love it. You guys are like, don't mess with me. But that means there are 4 B's in a row. If I wrote 4 in that form, if I wrote 4 as 2 squared, then it would definitely be 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 2 to the 4th is still 16, you can't escape. It's because numbers are not in the same format as variables with exponents. Variables with exponents are factored. Numbers are not, so they're not going to act the same way. So, but this is where students, if I'm not careful as a teacher, some students will just tune out because they're like, this is why I hate math, because it changes everywhere, and it says, here you do this, and here you do the exact opposite. Stupid math. And I understand the frustration, but that's not a 4. That's a 4. That means 4 B's. They're not going to act the same way then. They're not the same thing. You shouldn't expect them to act the same way. Okay. Um,
Would 4b minus 6, b plus 1 work?
was it 12B or which one? I'm sorry.
12c.
12C. No, it's got to be B minus 2. It can't be B plus 2. Because then the middle term would have the wrong sign.
It would be just 4b minus 6, b plus 1.
You can get it when you go get your sandwich.
4B minus 6? Yeah, that won't work. You got to be careful. You got to show me how you got there, because that's... There's only that one answer, really. Yeah.
I got the big long one.
Real quick on the quiz. Like 3C, a lot of you guys use the quadratic formula in 3C. Now, if you did that, I've already pretty much told you on there why you couldn't do it. Why can't you do that?
Because it's not an equation.
Well, quadratic formula was created from ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So if it's not equal to 0, you can't really... Now, you could use it, to be honest. You could use it... Exactly. If I do quadratic and I get this...
numbers that make 48.
It's trying to tell me that came from what? X minus 7.
X plus 1.
X plus 1/3, which is better known as 3x plus 1, probably. You guys see that? So you could, as long as you took it at the end and you brought it back, I would have been major happy. Little tears coming out. Not really, though. You should be able to factor that directly.
You should always search it.
But nobody did that.
Nobody did that.
I factored it.
No, I'm sorry. Nobody took the quadratic and all the way down.
But I set it to 0.
A few guys factored it beautifully. That was awesome. What's that?
That was a little catch.
Yeah, they all are. Yeah. I was kind of upset at how many mistakes there were on 1A. Right? I felt my cranky old man math teacher was going to come in here and say, Math 88, students make a mistake on that, they're going to lose a lot of damn points. So your Math 176, you should not. That should have been a gimme. That should have been thank you, Jeff. Instead, I got bad stuff. I know. That's why I say show work.
As long as you use the...
In fact, some of you guys, you got the right answer. You know I'm talking to you right now. And there was no work. You got to show me something, because otherwise I got to assume it came out of the calculator, because the calculator knows order operations. So it could pass the class.
Wait, I need that because I'm doing this.
But you got to show me that you can pass the class.
Go calculator.
Yeah, probably the TI 2000. You can just show with the problem,
Just
it'll
talk
do it.
into it.
I don't think
Yeah, do the problem.
Take a picture of it, and it'll recognize everything.
Yeah, exactly. That's where they're going. They got Google goggles now, so what the hell?
Google what? You got 53?
Huh? There's an app that's called Goggles for the Android phone, and there's also True Goggles that overlays. But I'm talking about the one for the Android phone.
No.
You take a picture of something, it'll
Wait,
do it against the database, and it'll figure out what it is. It's really quick, actually, now. At the beginning, it was stupid, but now it's silly. You take a picture of a painting, and about 2 minutes later, it says, this painting is this, and blah, blah, blah. It's awesome. Yeah, it's not Skynet, it's Google.
It should be 512 divided by 20.
All right, so maybe I could just
No, it's John 5. Okay, John 5.
hang out.
I didn't do that right?
Graph of what now?
Didn't I do that right?
Oh, graphically add. Yeah. Okay. You do it point by
it's
point.
negative 512.
So there's those problems
Divided
like
by
15 and
4.
16, page 196. So
Times 5.
Oh, it's negative 512. Dang it.
You guys pass this forward.
3 minus negative 512.
thank you.
5.
So you got a good question from section 2.6. Graphical addition.